Hello, good evening. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. The strapline says it all. Celtic 0, Braga 2. Live full-time reaction after Schmeichel error, bizarre VAR decision and a poor Celtic display. I'm Tony Haggerty and joining me tonight is Ryan McGinley. Ryan was at the match. I pity you, sir. Have to watch that 90 minutes. How are you after that, Ryan?
Seem to be having a wee bit of problem audio just now. It might be coming through my headphones. I don't know if that's due to the water. But when it rains, it pours, Tony, and it's certainly pouring tonight. Really disappointing both on and off the pitch from Celtic. A really poor night.
We'll get onto that first. A bit of housekeeping. And the Celtic Way podcast is sponsored by It's Simply Furniture, and they're located in Hillington, Glasgow. And It's Simply Furniture are an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. With over a decade of experience in furniture retail, they meticulously source only the finest species curated for quality, comfort and timeless design. From elegant sofas to statement dining sets, their hand-picked collections offer exceptional value without compromising in style, and their dedicated team ensure that your furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. If you want to see the beauty up close, you can visit their stunning showroom in Hillington and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount. And the links to their social media are in the description of this video. Ryan, we say thank you to Simply Furniture. Ryan, I'm going to say 7 words. Might seem highbrow, but it's how I feel, and it's the Shakespearean. Now is the winter of our discontent, Ryan. Basically, I think those 7 words sum it up. Celtic, you reap what you sow in the world, Ryan, and Celtic are going into the winter after a dreadful summer. There'll be plenty of malcontents about, and the discontent will just continue. Unacceptable display tonight, Ryan. Match day 2 of the Europa League. Celtic 0, Braga 2.
Yeah, just before I get started, can you hear me okay from my end of things?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. It's just because I won't be using my microphone. I don't know if it's due to the rain outside, but as long as everybody can hear me and hear what I've got to say, yeah, a really disappointing performance from Celtic. Not well, disappointing isn't even the right adjective to really describe tonight's game. It was shocking from near enough start to finish. It all starts from the goalkeeper at the back, who seemed to have the jitters early on in the game. Didn't impose any confidence in it. And when you've got your goalkeeper doing that, it's an uphill task, it's an uphill battle. As much as Celtic huffed and puffed in the opening 20-25 minutes, nothing came of their possession. And they had a bit of a foothold in the game, but they didn't really show too much. Then that long range strike from Ricardo Horta, which Kasper Schmeichel, he was already having a bad night. It turned even worse, and it ended up in the back of his net. But it seemed both goals tonight felt as if they went in slow motion. The long range shot that Kasper Schmeichel, from what I saw, he got a touch on the ball, but it still went into the back of his net. It's a shot that he's got to save. And then the second goal went in, which compounded the misery. We could be coming on here talking about, Celtic have been done out of a result here on Kelechi Iheanacho's goal, which mystifies me as to why it wasn't given. That was just a side note with what happened tonight, Tony. It was just a dreadful performance from start to finish. And there's real question marks on everybody involved with the football club, the players on the park, the manager off the park, and the boardroom as well. It was a toxic atmosphere tonight. It was a good atmosphere to begin with, but the game became more and more toxic as the match progressed, and that worries me ahead of upcoming games as well. The only thing that I can be happy about is the fact there's an international break after the next game against Motherwell.
Ryan, I think you tweeted at one point, and I think everybody will agree with this, 230 days since Celtic played Bayern Munich in the Allianz Arena, and there was real optimism abounding. But those Blazer and Tie Brigade have seen to it that they are world class. They are world class at shattering your ambitions and shattering any hope that you have, and that's on them. This you reap what you sow, as I said, and that's on them. That performance, this meeting on Monday will be incredible, absolutely incredible, because that for me is an unacceptable performance from any Celtic team. But I am not absolving the manager of any blame here, Ryan. and there are many issues. Kasper Schmeichel, Kieran Tierney, the midfield, and up front. Take your pick. Where do you start? And the manager as well. You have to say, you're looking at Celtic's next win. Where's that coming from? Where's their next goal coming from, Ryan? Someone, it's can't I can't believe it. It's I don't know. It's just for me tonight was lame. It's as lame as it gets, Ryan.
Yeah, it brought me back to another 2-0 game that happened a couple of years ago where Hearts beat Celtic 2-0 and there was a real toxicity in and amongst the support. That's what it felt like tonight. But also, yes, there was toxicity in amongst the crowd, but there was also an acceptance and an apathy creeping in that once it went to 2-0, people just accepted that Celtic were losing the game. And that should never be the case. Celtic should have the firepower, especially at home, to make a difference in these games. They came up against the Braga side who took their goals well, yes. They took their chances when they came along. But they aren't going to win this competition. I don't think they'll get anywhere near the latter stages of the competition, but they were far better than what they faced tonight in Celtic, and that's the difference. If Braga are an average side, Celtic are worse than average.
Well, I was just about to say that, Ryan. Braga, for me, were bang average. And if they're bang average, then what does that make Celtic? An absolute appalling performance, Ryan, to be honest. There was a flurry in the first 15 minutes. And then we can't not talk about it, but somebody has to explain to me that it's one of the... VAR has invented a handball there, Ryan, in that situation for me with Kelechi and Nacho. Joe Hart in the commentary box was incredulous. They have robbed Celtic of a legitimate goal, granted, but for me, it didn't even feel like a European game, Ryan. I don't even know if Celtic would have gone on to win the match, even if that goal is allowed to stand. But it certainly summed up Celtic's night with that VAR. I mean, an incredible VAR decision, probably one of the worst we've ever seen.
Yeah, we had Kasper Schmeichel at one end, and then seemingly a handball from Casper the Friendly Ghost at the other, because I can't see a handball. I can't see I watched the goal go in, and I was like, right, Celtic are back in the game. And then you saw the replays, because you'll check on your phone, you'll see what's happened between in the game. Sorry about that.
All right.
It's the water in the back. When it rains, it pours, as I said at the start of this podcast. We're going through all weather at the moment. I don't see where the handball comes from there. No. And with the amount of time, and we were speaking off air about what it could have been, was there a problem with the technology? But with the amount of time that the referee sat and was listening to his earpiece, the technology must have been working. They were going through a decision with the people in charge of VAR. So the fact that it wasn't given, the fact that wasn't overturned, because there's nothing wrong with the goal. It's a header from Ian Acho, and it's a good finish by the striker. How that wasn't overturned, I mean, there's got to be an inquest, but I think there's a couple of inquests that need to go on, both at Celtic and then maybe UEFA as well, for allowing that decision to stand. But Celtic have bigger problems at the moment, and they're transpiring on the pitch at the moment, and that's my big worry.
One of those problems you touched upon was the goalkeeper, Ryan. His distribution was woeful, to say the least, and he's been beaten by a long-range shot. And I felt he could have saved that. He went for it with his wrong hand, but you know what I mean when I say the wrong hand. But he's just been caught completely unawares by that. But I believe a goalkeeper of his calibre and his standing should save that, Ryan.
Yes, yeah. It seemed as if it was because it was such a long way out, the shot, it was almost as if a save for the cameras. It'll end up in compilation videos for the opposite effect because of how big a blunder it is. Because he gets a touch on it, but it still ends up in the back of his net. It's a freak goal. It's a goal that shouldn't transpire, but it summed up Celtic. It summed up Celtic the past couple of weeks. Just self-sabotage. They've had self-sabotage off the pitch with their transfer dealings, with the protests that are going on. But they sabotaged themselves on the pitch tonight by the way that they played. They couldn't help themselves. And the buck stops at the manager, unfortunately. And he's presided over these last two games. People said, to be fair, Celtic were probably 2 or 3 times better on Saturday than they were tonight. But even then, it was a goalless draw. at least we got a draw. At least they got a draw on Saturday, whereas they get beat at home against Braga, against an average Braga side. But Celtic have lost their way at the moment, and they need to find their way back, or else this skid could turn into a complete disaster, as we spoke about.
I told you on Saturday we worry about it becoming a malaise. I think we're
It's a
past
snowball
that
effect,
stage.
Tony. It's
It
the
is a
snowball
malaise.
effect.
Celtic are in a malaise. The goalkeeper is shown, signs of age, and also there's concern there. Kieran Tierney for me is a concern as well, Ryan. He really is.
Absolutely.
He's not the player that we all knew, but we kind of knew that. But that's something that you're going to have to work on moving forward. The manager as well. I just don't feel that anything he does is changing. I've watched the same game from the start of the season, every home game and every away game, and we've got no cutting edge. So how can you expect to win games when you have no cutting edge? And the players seem to be caught in this rinse and repeat cycling of the recycling of the ball, and we're not getting anywhere fast, and it's shown. And average teams now sense blood when they come to Celtic Park, and just when they're playing Celtic in general, and we're not getting enough penetration to hurt them, Ryan. And I believe that I really do watch Celtic now, and I think, what is the strategy here? What's the game plan? What we know, there doesn't seem to be any cohesion there, Ryan. None at all.
And there's no entertainment as well, Tony. This team aren't good to watch at the moment. They don't fill you with any joy or excitement whenever they're on the ball. They are turgid. They are boring to watch. They lack any fight. They lack desire. You've got players that actively don't want to be at the club anymore. Daiz Maeda wanted to leave the club since February. He's wanted to leave the club, and yet Celtic are relying on him game in, game out to bust a gut for a team that he's likely going to be leaving in January anyway. You've got other players in the team. You could go through the whole side. The defence, Liam Scales has been good this season, but the fact that he's a starter, a bona fide starter, shows the regression in Celtic's squad as a whole. Cameron Carter-Vickers looks completely out of it. He looks shaky on the ball. Kieran Tierney looks a shadow of the player that he used to be. Colby Donovan looked like a young player out there tonight. I don't want to give him too much stick because he's done well for the most part. I'm glad that Brendan Rodgers took him out of the firing line because he was struggling. The captain looks out of sorts this season. At what point is there questions asked of the captain? Because he's involved in every midfield this season, and the midfield isn't working. And you could argue that the best that the midfield played this season was when Callum McGregor wasn't in it against Falkirk, because they actually showed a bit of pace and power and there when they played Falkirk in the League Cup. The forward areas, proof is in the pudding. Celtic don't score goals, so the forward line is not working. Tenetke started well, but it's kind of the game kind of summed up his Celtic career so far. He started well, but then faded out because the past 3 games he's not contributed a goal or an assist. Ian Atchell's wait for a Celtic Park goal continues, and on the right side's a disaster, Tony. The right hand side is an absolute disaster.
It's a joyless and soulless activity watching Celtic just now. I said all season it's a chore. It's a chore. It's a bore. And the Celtic fans want more. Let's be honest, Ryan. I'm reminded of I had an old Italian friend who sadly passed away, and he was a friend of my father's, and I wrote about him in one of my books. Sandro, his name was, and he was an AC Milan fan, and he decided he wanted a Celtic season ticket because he spoke to my dad a lot. In 1988-89, he got a season ticket, and myself and my father were season ticket holders then. And at half time, we would meet him, and he came away with a wonderful expression that stuck in my head, because Celtic weren't very good back then either. And we met him on the stairs in the main stand, and he said in the Italian Gino De Campo kind of voice, "That's a no football, that's a garbage." And that was one of the chapters in my book. That's a no football, that's a garbage. And Sandro came flashing back to me and screaming. He was apoplectic with rage about what he was watching, and I found myself almost mimicking that, shouting at the telly tonight that's a no football, it's a garbage. I just felt I don't know. I didn't feel moved at all. The kind of whole European game experience. I think you tweeted as well that first time you've been to a Celtic Park game when You'll Never Walk Alone wasn't played. Is that right?
No, not played.
Before
I was, and I thought, no, I got to my seat about 15 minutes before kickoff, which would, you would expect the anthem to be played at least 5 minutes before. But no, there was silence until there was music on in the background, but it wasn't You'll Never Walk Alone. You can't go into a European game without You'll Never Walk Alone. That's unheard of, regardless of how the fans are feeling and how the club is being run and how the club are playing. That's a prerequisite. You always play You'll Never Walk Alone in games. And it probably sums up the standards at the club, because the standards of the club are slipping and they're regressing at an alarming rate. But even small things like that, they snowball into bigger things. So not having the anthem before the game, not signing the players in January or in the summer to replace others that have left, not the manager. I don't know what's going on with the manager at the moment, but something's not working between the message that the manager's giving the players.
Yeah.
It echoes and it mirrors the third season of his last reign, to be honest, because it was turgid again. It was turgid in that season as well, shortly before his departure.
Yeah, and honest to goodness, Ryan, I am, you try and be as positive as you can when you can about Celtic, and they've given us some wonderful times recently, but you're commenting on what you're seeing, and from the top to the bottom, there is something rotten in the state of Denmark. To go all Shakespeare on you again. And you and I've said this before, right? The blazer and the collar and tie brigade don't feel it. They don't feel hurt. They walk away tonight and it's just a poor result to them. But you and I have that pit of the stomach feeling. We're on here talking about this head on. You'd rather be anywhere else, but it's your football team, and we're here, win, lose or draw, as the song says, we're here talking about it. And like the Yellow Pages, at times we have to be here for the nasty things in life, and this is nasty things in life when Celtic, never mind winning games, can't score goals.
I can understand nasty things happening if you can't prevent them. But all of these things that are happening at Celtic were completely preventable. They've shot themselves in the foot with absolutely everything, from the transfers to the players on the park, to the manager, to the board, to the supporters, and that divide between the supporters and the board. Listen, there's always been a divide with the support and the board, and I think there always will be, but there needs to be a common ground between the two, which hopefully will be the case on Monday. We'll await that. I think it'll be some meeting between the two organisations on Monday, but perhaps more importantly, Celtic have got a game on Sunday. And by the way, the opposition manager is speaking about it. They'll fancy their chances to come at Celtic Park and win the game.
Why wouldn't you? Allowing for everything, Ryan, that's happening. The manager, along with those players, are massively underachieving. They should be doing better. And I don't know what's happening here, if the players are switching off to the manager's voice or whatever, but there just seems to be... There is nothing to cling on to, really, is there? Tonight I saw Celtic lose to a team that grew in confidence because they realised how poor Celtic were after 20 minutes, when they had the first speculative shot at goal, and then thought, Celtic aren't very good. Where's this infamous Celtic Park atmosphere? It's missing. Sense blood, right, fine. Got their noses in front, got something to hold on to, and then just scored a second goal to rub salt into the wound, basically.
It all trickles down to the failure to make it to the Champions League. So you'll already have that apathy coming into the game, because a lot of people are only interested in the Champions League because they want the glitz and the glamour of that. And I completely understand that, because that's what Celtic have been used to over the past 3 years. The fact that they don't have that this season is a massive failure by everybody concerned with the club. So going into the game tonight with that apathy, just in general, without even bringing in the form book, without bringing in the relations between the support and the board, so many things working against Celtic just now. And the one thing that couldn't afford to not work tonight was the team on the park. And that's where a lot of... that's a lot of people's common ground, is the fact that, or the way that the team plays, because we all want the same thing, regardless of what people say about the board relations, about where Celtic are playing, about what they're doing in the transfer window. At the end of the day, we just want to see Celtic do well. And sorry, we just want to see Celtic do well and on the park, and that isn't happening at the moment.
But Ryan, in order to do well on the park, the board have to really look at this game tonight and hang their heads in shame. That's shameful, and their part in, refusing to back their manager in the summer. It's came home to roost. That's what happens. It came home to roost against Kairat Almaty, and it's coming home to roost in the Europa League when you are, and let's not kid ourselves, Celtic are a bang ordinary side at this moment in time, Ryan. There is no magic, wand to fix this until January. And you rightfully said, if you're Motherwell, you're not going to have a better chance to come to Celtic Park and beat Celtic if you really have a go at them. And your game plan should be to score, because Celtic are very shot shy at the minute and not scoring. And honestly, you just, at this moment in time, you just don't see where that spark is coming from, if it's going to come at all. And as a collective, from the hierarchy to the manager to the players, it's shambolic. Let's be honest, it's shambolic.
And it's all self-imposed. That's the thing. All of this could have been prevented, and that's my biggest gripe with everything. They have shot themselves in the foot almost purposefully. It's so strange the way. I mean, what is it? 232 days that I tweeted since Celtic were toe-to-toe against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. That was the home game. Yes, they lost that game, but they lost to a good side under Vincent Kompany. I tell you, one of the four. One of the favourites for the tournament this season. I would say I've watched them this season, but there's the weather getting even worse. But yeah, to go from that to this against that Braga side, struggling to even make chances, it's beyond me, Tony. It's absolutely beyond me. I'm not speechless, but I'm speechless at the same time. If you get me, I'm just saying things and hoping that they all work in the right order.
Yes, you're a journalist. You're not allowed to be speechless, but you feel pretty bereft and pretty empty, Ryan. And you just don't see a light at the end of this tunnel, do you? Because you're watching Celtic on a spin cycle of rinse and repeat, and you've watched it. Even the St Mirren game, Luke McCowan bails them out the opening day of the season. The Livingston game, the first half was absolutely dreadful. Then overpowered Livingston in the second half at Celtic Park. 2 games against Kairat Almaty, consigned to the dustbin. Rangers game consigned to the dustbin. This game tonight consigned to the dustbin. Hibs game consigned to the dustbin. I just don't see any green shoots of recovery at all. And there's, as you say, I mentioned the other week, it's the other Celtic collective that need to take responsibility for that. The board, the manager, and the players. And tonight, I think all the players kept looking for somebody else to bail them out a hole, but nobody took that responsibility, Ryan. Nobody, not one person in the team decided to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, because they were poor. They were a poor team, and they've came and done a number on you and won 2-0, and waltzed away with 3 points. And I say talk is cheap about this going to the latter stages of the Europa League. My goodness, on this evidence, man, forget that. That's a pipe dream at this early juncture. But something has to change drastically, Ryan. I'm not holding back. I think I'm past the angry stage now, Ryan. I really am. Apathy's a strong, strong word. I never get apathetic when I'm watching Celtic, but my goodness, they're pushing my buttons, and I'm on to Glasgow parlance, Ryan. I'm on that bogey going down the apathy hill, and it's not got a break. The old-fashioned Willie and Bruins annuals you would see, the bogey crashing in a puff of smoke. That's where I'm headed right now, that journey.
It's just not great, is it? It's just not great. And Celtic aren't playing good football. There is a disconnect, as we spoke about. There's just a break. There's a chasm between where Celtic are and where they should to be. There's a chasm in between, and they've got to jump that chasm, unfortunately, and get to that good place. They can't feel sorry for themselves tonight because, all of a sudden they've got the game on Sunday. What if they drop more points? What if Hearts win again and then they build up a bit of a lead? You're then going, you're looking at the game next month against Hearts and thinking, you need to go there and salvage your season. You're on a rescue mission already. This snowball effect, the snowball can get bigger and bigger, and it is getting bigger and bigger because the domestic form is taking a hit because of the European results too. Tonight was a good chance for Celtic to use a good result tonight to use it as a launch pad into more positive showings. Yeah. But it's done the opposite, Tony. It's brought them even further back into the abyss. And it's going to take a lot for them to get back to where they need to be. And unfortunately, at the moment, I've got severe doubts as to whether or not Brendan Rodgers can do that and bring them into that good place.
No, that's the $64,000 question, Ryan. How much of this is now on the manager? And, how long can this... I'm going to call it a malaise. How long can this malaise continue with the current manager? Because he has walked away relatively, Teflon Don, nothing stuck over the fact that they crashed out the Champions League and, they didn't win at Ibrox and they are not scoring goals. And he got the kind of backing of the Celtic collective by, the things that happened during the transfer window, not being backed, the leaking of the story to a tabloid newspaper, doing a fillet job on him. So he's walked away relatively unscathed. I think this is a time where he has to take part, he has to hold his hand up and say, you are getting scathed now, Brendan, because these performances and the tactics and the way you're playing the organisation, just don't seem to be working.
No, they're not working at all. I think he's done a good job. I think he's done an expert job in diverting some of the blame off of his own back. Yeah, the deflection game has been good from Brendan Rodgers, but he can't hide from it anymore. Unfortunately, he's got to take his fair share of the blame because a lot of the reasons why Celtic failed tonight to get anything from the game is because of him and his tactics or lack of tactics tonight. I didn't understand what game Celtic were playing. I didn't understand at half-time why they went to three at the back. It just made no sense. Nothing that they did made sense. The subs didn't make much sense either. You took Kelechi Iheanacho off at the weekend, but you played him the full 90 minutes tonight. There's no consistency in anything that Celtic are doing just now. They're inconsistently consistent. That's the only consistency. And I said that on Saturday, but that's what they're consistent at, being inconsistent at the moment. But maybe they actually are being consistently subpar.
I've been struggling to see what the end game is in terms of Celtic's method and pattern and style of play, Ryan, from the start of the season. As I say, we just seem to be... I feel as if I've watched this Celtic game from the start of the season. No real lack of creativity.
Tony, it feels like
Groundhog Day, to be honest.
It feels like a continuation of the Scottish Cup final, where Celtic just went through the motions at Hampden. They got a fright because Kasper Schmeichel made a mistake, and they lost that final because they just weren't at the races. They thought that they could get away with just getting an own goal and just walking their way to the 90 minutes. But it feels like ever since then, yes, there's been a break. There's been a summer break in between, but it doesn't feel like that. I'm already, with watching Celtic, we're in October now. I don't know about you, Tony. I'm feeling fatigue watching this team. It feels as if it's been a long old season. It's barely been 2 months since the season started. That is really concerning for me. And if that's how it feels for people going and watching the game, how are the players and how are the manager feeling at this present time? But to be fair, they're the ones that are contributing to this malaise. They're the ones that can make the difference in terms of getting results on the park. But it just feels like a turgid season, Tony, and it's only going to get more difficult as the season goes on.
All I can say is, Ryan, it's Celtic, but not as we know it. Let's be honest. And
it's the Celtic we know this season, Tony.
I don't recognise a Celtic team, but yeah, it's and they're going to have to shake themselves out of their lethargy and address the malaise. How they do that, I've no idea. I'm going to let you go, Ryan, because the weather is pretty bad, and we've been dissecting this for half an hour. Say thank you to the 750 people that joined us. It's never a pleasant experience when Celtic lose in Europe, but to lose the way they did tonight, it's even more of a bitter pill to swallow. But the nature of football is that you have to move on, and we will be talking about the Motherwell game tomorrow, and obviously, I think it's myself and John. We'll be back on tomorrow to probably pour over the corpse of this if we can.
Thankfully, I'm getting a couple of days to not talk about Celtic.
Yeah, you're getting some respite, Ryan. Yeah, I'm sure I'll enjoy that. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time coming on and joining us on the stream. Wish we had better news. Celtic 0, Braga 2. Celtic slumped to a defeat on match day 2. 1 point from 2 games. Ryan, if you're going to qualify at all, you need to win your home games. It's not happening tonight for Celtic.
If you're going to be successful, you need to win any game, Tony, and that's just something that Celtic are struggling with at the moment. I'm looking forward to when Celtic next score. Don't know when that'll be, but I'm looking forward to it when it does arise.
Yeah, indeed. Guys, take care. We'll see you all tomorrow, 10 o'clock, round about then. Ryan, you enjoy your 2 days off and get yourself up the road safe and sound. Say thank you to It's Simply Furniture for their continued sponsorship of the Celtic Way Morning Briefings and the Celtic Podcasts. If you can, have a good night. We'll see you all soon.
Cheers, guys.